Okay. Good evening. This is the February 3rd, 2025 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'll open the public meeting at 6:03 and roll call. My name is Suzanne Ryan, I'm chair. Audrey Klein is vice chair. Jody Persons, voting member. Kate McMahon, voting member. I'm a voting member. Chuck Sumner is an alternate, and Sabette Stroman is also an alternate. The first order of business will be quickly to go through the minutes of January 6th.
Okay.
Do I have any corrections, additions?
No, I don't have any.
Entertain a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
I move to accept the minutes of January 6th as printed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Also, the January 16th minutes of 2025. Are there any corrections or changes to that? I hear none. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as printed?
I move to accept them as printed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, and so tonight we have alternates we'll be using tonight, and I'm going to rotate them. And for the first item on the agenda, it's Hayden Wilbur. Sabette, will you sit for that? This is kind of, you've sat on this before, so it makes sense that you sit on this. Before I open the public hearing, let me pull out my packet.
I believe I don't have a pen.
Okay, so before I open the public hearing, I'll just give a little background. Tonight's meeting is for a rehearing of our decision, and typically the board has a right to hold a rehearing if they feel there are any grounds that maybe we missed an opportunity or we made an error. In this case, the applicant has alleged that we made an error. But also, more importantly, a rehearing is to gather new information not available at the time of the hearing. And it's come to light that there is new information. Now, I'm going to open the public hearing for specifically taking testimony from our head of DPW. That's the information that was not available to us that night on December, I believe it was December 2nd, 2024, we held the hearing. And in this hearing, what we are going to focus on is what Steve has to say, and go over what our ordinance on water hookup, what that entails. So at this time, Sabette, you're a voting member. Chuck, you're a listener. And I would ask if Steve could come up, and you've left us a document here. Would you be good enough to come up and talk to us about 175, 78, and how you came to your conclusions?
Steve Randall, Director of Public Works. So a while back, I was asked to weigh in on this, this Hemlock Drive area, which is what we call it. So just a little bit of background, there's a 6-inch ductile iron main there. Pressure volume in this area prior to me coming on board was deemed to be too low for expansion. The town had installed a smart hydrant at the end of the main to monitor all the pressures throughout that area. And the average daily pressure in there is hovering right around 30 psi. So for average of 30, it's running between 25 and 50 to get around that 30-ish. So as referenced in what I've given you guys below is a few breakdowns of how the distribution system works, what we are required to have for minimum pressures in order to facilitate water for the people. So I'm going to read that section. So the system shall be designed to maintain a minimum pressure of 20 pounds per square inch at ground level, which is at the house. All points in the distribution system under the conditions of normal flow. Normal working pressure should be approximately between 60 and 80 psi and shall not be less than 35. So if you look back a couple pages, I put on some clip shots of the smart hydrant that's out on that section. We did a 7-day look back and then for the last 30 days. And if you look at the numbers on there range right across, but a lot of the average working pressures are 31.5 psi. So that is obviously dipping down well below the minimum requirement. And I'd also like to point out that this does not reference anything to do with fire flow. If we exercise any hydrants at all on that side of town, this drops down, the alarms kick on, and the water goes away. So any flushing and anything that we ever do in that area always is at night. It just doesn't have the capacity to add to it. So when this came about, originally that was where my letter to them had come from, based on what we had instituted, or my predecessors instituted in a few years back for expansion on Hemlock. Any other questions?
No. I think I appreciate you putting this together for us. It explains better about that zone and
Yep.
how water is supplied or not supplied. No, I think, does anyone have any question for him? Nope. Okay. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you coming out at night like this. Okay, so when we originally looked at this application, it was one lot with a pending subdivision of 3 lots. And at the time we made our decision, it was based on 1 lot. And we've now learned that whether it's 1 lot or 3 lots, the water could not be supplied. And the other thing that's important to understand going forward is that 175-78, the first line in that zoning article says the residential district has a district boundary based on the availability of public water service. And we all didn't recognize that in the beginning. At any rate, I would make a motion that based on as a result of the new information, I move that the board does not take jurisdiction based on the new information and send this matter to the planning board for further review.
Second.
Roll call vote. A discussion. Roll call vote. Audrey?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Ryan, yes. Sabette? Yes. Okay, it's unanimous. So, there you have it. Okay. All right. All right, so the next item on the agenda is Campbell Family Trust, tax map number 232-29, 324 South Main Street. Case number 16V as in Victor 24, public hearing for a variance under Chapter 175-71B of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance to allow for a variance for setback from the front yard. And this is a formal submission for a public hearing. Sabette, Sabette's gonna sit on this. We have had the site visit on this, a month ago?
Maybe more.
Roughly a month ago. And so the members are familiar with the property. And would you be kind enough to, I'm going to open the public hearing, and would you be kind enough to state your name?
Of course. Yep. Good evening. For the record, my name is Tim Peloquin. I'm a licensed land surveyor, and my company is Promised Land Survey. And here tonight representing Brent and Maria Campbell with the landowners of record, and they are here, but I'm going to help them read their variance request into the record. I drew the plan and be able to talk a little bit about it.
Well, typically what we like to do is go through the application
Yes.
so that the public can hear what you submitted.
100%.
And you can ad lib or you can read it directly from what
Okay.
you submitted.
Okay, thank you. I'll probably read it ad lib. Probably read it directly right now, and then I'll ad lib it as I think need be, and just a little bit at the end. But I won't take too much of your time. So we're requesting a variance from Article 10, as you said, 175-70.1.b. And this property is 324 Main Street, which is, see, I'm already out living, just down the road a little bit on the left, before you get to the high school, or the school. And it's a 3+ almost 3 acre parcel. There's a small cottage that sits about halfway down, well out into the field. So that's where the property is. And it's in your, what's termed your village residential district, okay? And that's why we're here to ask a variance. So the variance will not be contrary to the public interest because we feel that the owners are intending to build a new residence in close proximity to the original dwelling, thus upholding the historic sense and feel of the property and neighborhood. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the new dwelling will conform to the zoning ordinance in every other aspect and will even be closer to the front property line, South Main Street right away, than where the existing dwelling currently sits. Maybe I will ad lib a little bit to tell you the existing dwelling, while it sits a little further back, it also is jammed right up against a property line, right? A stone wall, just a couple feet off a stone wall. So I will suggest that this is more conforming in terms of moving it more to the, within the, certainly the sideline setbacks. Substantial justice is done because the owners will be afforded the right to construct a new dwelling and will be able to enjoy the existing driveway access and the existing lot improvements to date. I will say that the cottage is, it's very small, it's older, and there's a need, certainly a complete need for renovation of that part of that, but they'd rather build a more permanent structure. The values of surrounding property will not be diminished because As with all new construction, dwellings along with their associated lot improvements, nearby property values are generally known to increase instead of decrease. Additionally, houses, particularly new construction houses, have higher property values if they are further from a main street due to noise and privacy concerns. And literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And speaking to the special conditions, there is an existing dwelling at nearly 300 feet from the right-of-way. There's a sewer line easement that runs through the front of the lot, and there's somewhat poorly drained soils that flood in the front of the lot. So you will see that on the site plan that I provided. There's a sewer line that literally runs towards the front of the lot, a very old sewer line. And that definitely hinders the development in the front of that lot. And there's also a picture provided of certain flooding that happens in the front of the lot during heavy rains. That picture was taken, that you would have in your packet, in July of 2023. So it was during a drier season, it was heavy rain, but you can see what happens. So owing to special conditions set forth, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to enable a reasonable use of it, because the construction of the new house at 20 to 30 feet from the road would require the home to be built in a, which is your ordinance, 20 to 30 feet from the road, would require the home to be built on and somewhat poorly drained soils that have occasional flooding. Further, the sewer line easement restricts the use of the front of the lot. Additionally, as part of the packet, of course, I included a deed of the Campbells, and again, they're here present. I included that picture that I had said. You have an abutters list, and of course, there was a new ordinance that came in and somebody picked up in September, right? A new ordinance that basically said anybody within 50 feet of the property, and that was a new thing that wasn't picked up on when the abutters list was submitted. So I apologize for that. Whoever picked up on that, kudos for you. I don't think other zoning boards were as quick as you guys to pick up on that new law, which needs to, of course, be heeded. So we apologize for that oversight. Additionally, in your packet, you have a letter from a realtor in your area named Lisa Williams from Wolfeboro Bay Real Estate, LLC. I assume you would have read that,
Yes,
but
we do.
I will tell you that basically she cites that certainly a house placed in the location or the vicinity that we're showing is of a much higher value than building it in the front. And building it in the front certainly has hindrances for all the reasons that I've stated, as well as noise and other things. So with that, I think I ad-libbed enough. I read the points. I'll pause and try to answer any questions the board may have or members of the public as appropriate. Thank you.
I have one question. Is the house currently hooked up to sewer and water?
The current cottage is hooked up to sewer.
I couldn't hear.
Okay, so it is hooked up to water, but the sewer is not connected.
He
So-
should have to come to the
Yep.
microphone.
Yep, there's a fee, they've paid a fee to be hooked up to the sewer.
So he's
And-
intending to hook up to sewer?
Yes, 100%, but the current cottage has a septic system.
Okay, so they will hook up to water and sewer?
Yes, it already is hooked up to water, but the new dwelling will be hooked up to water,
Okay.
and it will be hooked up to municipal sewer, yes.
That was the only question I had. I go around the table. Anybody have any questions?
Nope, seems entirely reasonable.
Is that structure on lot 37, is that a residence? That's the lot that wasn't originally noticed. Is that a residence with a driveway that goes?
Yeah,
out?
it's got a right-of-way down through, I actually didn't bring a copy of the tax map, but we did provide it. I think there's a little driveway, actually, it is a common driveway. I don't think there's a residence. I've been down that driveway. I cannot recall seeing anything to the right.
So there's a building here, and I'm trying to determine whether that's a dwelling or not. It's on its own parcel.
I think I'm remembering from the short hearing we had last time, it is a residence, but I think they have to tell us. Isn't that who wasn't noticed before?
Everything was noticed this time, I can
Yeah,
assure
but
you.
I mean, before, I think that was part of the issue, Audrey, from what I'm remembering.
Okay.
Can I look and see what she's looking at, just so maybe I can answer it
Yeah.
easier?
Yeah.
Now I know I can answer. There is a house at that, and it has that short little right-of-way that comes in. It's really a flag lot.
Where does the driveway come in? Is it from Treadwell, or does it have one all the way out to?
It comes right off of Main Street.
Okay.
And by the way, the plot plan, or the plan that I provided, you can see the edge of that building in a small hatch, at least the side of that building.
Got it. Okay, that's what I was trying to identify.
Yeah, perfect. And its foundation drain, a couple other things show up on there.
And Audrey, I think I remember when we were there for the site visit, it actually was even kind of wet up in the front. I kind of
was.
vaguely remember that. Do y'all?
So I don't see
So we
this,
saw how
Yeah.
wet
I-
it was in the front.
I don't see this, any flagging for wetland on here, or any identification from a wetland scientist that that's wetland or just wet.
I did determine it to be somewhat poorly drained. I am not a certified wetland scientist. I do have 2 wetland scientists on staff. It could have been verified, but I do not believe it qualifies as a wetland, no, in my experience.
I don't have any other questions until we deliberate.
Okay. Any other questions from the board at this time? Any questions from the public, either those in favor? Any questions from those opposed? Any questions, period? Okay, and then, seeing there's no more questions, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, we have to go through the 5 criteria. We put 1 and 2, number 1 and 2, we always do those together because you can't say no to one without saying no to the other, or yes to one without yes to the other, so. The variance is not contrary to the public interest and the spirit of the ordinance is observed. Who would like to go first on that one? Sabette, you want to try it?
Yeah, I don't think it's contrary and the spirit is observed. I think keeping the house kind of in the proximity of where it is now makes more sense than bringing it up in terms of kind of the historic nature of the house and the property. So I think it's a positive to leave it in the back.
All right. Anybody want to add anything to that, or?
Well, the new structure will be in a somewhat better location than the old one.
Okay, then we'll move to number 3. Substantial justice is done. The benefit to the applicant should not be outweighed by the harm to the general public.
I think it makes a lot more sense to allow the owners to be farther back from the main road, keeping it quieter and a little more private. There's kind of a really pretty long driveway back to the house that then remains the same.
Yeah, I think the way they have this designed here is almost the best use for their property. 'Cause if they had to build up the front there, it would be so expensive, and you get that sewer line right there, and I just think,
And it's wet.
yeah, it's just,
Okay, number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished, and the applicant has submitted a letter from a real estate person who says not only will it not be diminished, but it will be improved in the neighborhood.
So my reading of that letter was that the value of this property would not be diminished, not the value of surrounding properties. Was that spoken to?
I thought I haven't got it right now, but I thought in the letter, somebody
I just
said.
wanted to point that out.
Such as an improvement to the area and to that lot will improve the general neighborhood. Okay, number 5. Literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship, and the special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area are.
The sponginess of the ground in the front is a problem, the wetness.
So I guess this goes to what we're supposed to be doing here. And for whatever reason, that zoning provision is in there. And the planning board decides on that, they put it up, and the town votes on it. So we have to stay between the rails of the 5 criteria when we're looking at this, whether we think it's nicer back or not nicer back, and only go by the things that are a hardship. And that's obviously a hardship because there's a sewer line going through there. I don't think they could fit the house on the roadside of the sewer line, but I do think they can move it closer to the sewer line, which is the only reason why this is a hardship, is because of the front of that lot. So, in my mind, it's not a hardship to move this as close as it can be to the sewer line that will meet the ordinance. The hardship will be it's not all the way to the front, it's up as close as they can get it to the front. I think there's also a benefit that it isn't right next to the adjacent house when you do that, which I think is a benefit for the neighbor. But I agree with all the things you said about how nice it is to have a long driveway and how it's nice set back, but that's not what we're looking at. We're not looking at how much we like it. We're looking at how does it fit into the 5 criteria of the ordinance that we're looking at, that we don't get to decide whether we like the ordinance or not. That's up for the planning board to decide that it doesn't make any more sense and they need to rewrite it. So I would say that there's no hardship in moving it as close as possible to the sewer line, which is not what they've applied for. So my position is that I would not approve this.
But I disagree. I mean, I remember that, oh, sorry.
If the criteria in the first part of this, A, is not met, set forth above, the property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance, and a variance is therefore necessary to establish a reasonable use of it because, and they have said, if you can't meet the one above, they have said the construction of a new house 20 to 30 feet from the road will require the home to be built in somewhat poorly drained soils that have occasionally flooded. Further, there is a sewer line, well, never mind the sewer line because you already addressed that, but they're saying they would like to tear down the house and build a new house on that same parcel. But if they have to put it back where it was, there's wetland there. That makes it impractical to.
Not where it was. They're saying there's wetland up by the road here.
If they have to meet
Yeah.
the ordinance, there's wet property.
They have to what?
If they have to conform to the ordinance and move it up closer. If they keep it right where it is, there's not wetland right there. But if they move it up closer, that's where it's wet.
Well, but the
Yeah.
ordinance says they're supposed to be up close, and they don't want to be in the wetland.
Right, and that's where it's wet.
So I'm testifying in favor of what I'm not,
I thought you were saying something about if the house stayed where it was wet. Maybe I misunderstood you.
Can you talk into your microphone?
oh. If they comply with the ordinance, they're saying that the soil is wet.
Yeah, but they're saying comply on the other side of the sewer line up by the road. That's where it's wet, not on their side of the sewer line, which is, let's just say, halfway between the sewer line and where they've got the house shown. Is not where I understand it to be wet. And even if it did appear to be wet, it's not a wetlands, it's an area that would be constructed and built up around a foundation. So it, you know,
Well,
it might be a puddle, but that doesn't make it a wetland. However, I think they're talking about on the other side of the road, other side of the sewer line, between the road and the sewer line where they can't fit the house anyway.
I have a question. If the property owner needs relief from this ordinance by granting a variance, do we have to then tell them lay down some additional conditions? I mean, can they get relief or, as requested or not?
What do you mean? Like, could
I
they
mean-
do something else?
Well, you're saying that maybe they should just move that right up to as close as possible.
So
To the sewer.
I don't believe that we as a board can lead them in that direction. So that's why I said I can't approve it the way it is, but I would probably look at it differently if it was moved closer. It's up to them to say, well, okay, we're going to come back and we're going to move it closer.
Okay, I see.
It's not something that we can put as a condition
I
on
see.
the denial.
That's the question I was
Yeah.
raising. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Chuck wants to weigh in on this.
If you look at the drawing, if you scale, you just eyeball the drawing that they've given us for the plot plan, the sewer right-of-way is about 100 feet back from the road, approximately. So they can't move the house within 100 feet. They have to be at least 100 feet back from the road. Because of the sewer line easement. It's a dashed line on the plan they've given us.
So what you're saying, Chuck, is they can't.
So what I'm saying is that
Can't comply with
they can't be any closer than that. The ordinance says 30 feet, but this sewer easement is 100 feet back,
I think you're
approximately.
misreading the scale, but I understand your point. That's 180 feet.
I'm just looking, the width of the lot looks to be 147 feet, and the setback from the street to the sewer line looks to be less than that. That's what I'm going by.
What's 147 feet?
The width of the lot.
Gotcha. The scale doesn't seem to match up to that very, very well at all.
So what I'm saying is that we can ask them who would close it, but we can't, they can't get anywhere near the 30 feet. So what difference does it make if we can only build a house about, let's say, about 120 feet back from the road at best? So why force them to do that when they,
I'm not forcing them to do anything. I'm saying that I don't think that they have a hardship because they can be more compliant.
more compliant, but still not compliant?
No, they can't be compliant because they have a hardship due to the area up in front of the lot. That's the hardship, is that area in front that they can't build.
Well, you just said it. That's the hardship right there.
That's the hardship, that they can't build and they can't meet the ordinance.
They cannot meet the
But that
ordinance.
doesn't mean, in my opinion, they can't move it, they can't become more conforming than they're showing here.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's just the way I see it. I understand you
Yeah,
might not
But
agree.
I disagree. If they can't comply, then I don't think we should say, well, then 50 feet, 30 feet more.
I'm not
makes
saying
you
any of
closer
that.
to
I'm just saying I would not, I don't see the hardship
Okay.
Okay.
in becoming more compliant. That's all.
I see a hardship with, like we already talked about in the front. I mean, you're not gonna be able to squeeze a house in there, so now they're looking for permission to go away from that sewer line and away from that
Yeah.
where they're not gonna be able to build. So I don't see a real big issue of where they wanna go on the rest of the property. I mean, if they actually are building it closer than the existing dwelling, it is pretty, you know, it is quite a jump up from where the existing dwelling is. They're not asking to make a longer driveway and put it way back. I don't know.
It seems reasonable to me to see the hardships there, and so I feel supportive of this variance.
Okay, so there's a restriction here. The restriction is they're supposed to be up as close to the front of the road, whatever that
30 feet.
distance is, as the ordinance says. But does that restriction, as applied to the property, does it serve that purpose as it's written if we enforce it? Is that fair? Is that in a fair and substantial way to say, you don't have a hardship, so, you know, the restriction on the ordinance is such that you can't use your lot in any other reasonable way? They want to tear down the house and they want to move it to be as compliant as possible. Is the proposed project a reasonable project? I mean, it's more than just, it's either a hardship or not a hardship. It's, you have to take into those factors. Is it a reasonable use that they're trying to do, tear down the old house and put a new house? Is it fair in a substantial way to do what they're trying to do? They're not going to be less compliant than they already are they?
No.
They're going to be more compliant
They're
Yeah,
gonna
there you go.
because they're moving
So
closer
there
to
you
the
go.
road.
They're going to be more compliant.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that was, we went through, that was number 5, was it? Yeah, we did values of property. Did we do 3, substantial justice? I'm losing track. Did we do number
I think
3?
we did 3. We said it would be substantial justice.
Yeah, we put 1 and 2 together and then 3 we did, I thought.
Okay. Well, what does anybody want to do?
I'd make a motion to approve the variance.
I second.
Well, the variance has got to, says it's got to be 30 feet back. All right. There are problems with that that constitute a hardship. The proposed new structure is closer to the 30 feet than the old structure. The old structures doesn't have sewer or anything. It's not really, it's pretty run down, and so I'm sort of sympathetic to the plan. It'll increase property values in the neighborhood. I think there's more harm in turning this down than, I don't think there's harm to the public in this, but I think there's greater harm to the property owner, so. So that's why I move to approve it.
I second the motion. A discussion. All right. With that, we have to put some conditions on it. I'd like to call a vote and see if you're in favor of the approval, and if so, then I have to amend it to add the conditions. So roll call vote. Sabette, are you in favor of granting this variance?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes,
Yes.
No?
Ryan, yes. The conditions that should be added are, all federal and state permits shall be received prior to the construction, including but not limited to the town of Wolfeboro building permit. The approval is per the documentation submitted with the application packet, dated, what's the date on that? Dated November 8th, 2024. The application as submitted to the ZBA does not satisfy the submittal requirements for the building permit. The notice of decision shall be recorded at the Carroll County Registry of Deeds, and the applicant shall be responsible for payment. The variance shall be valid if exercised within 2 years from the date of approval or as further extended by the local ordinance or by the zoning board of adjustment for good cause in accordance with 674-33 Roman 1A. Applicant, we don't need that. We don't need that. Appeal process pursuant to 677-2, an aggrieved party may appeal this decision to the County Superior Court within 30 days of the date of the board voted to approve this application. The variance, I should probably identify for the secretary, the variance for, where the heck did it go? Yeah, thank you. The variance for Davis SSMC GST Trust, tax map 15816. I don't think, that's not the right one. It's this one, I'm sorry, I'm reading from the wrong one. I read down one. The variance for Campbell Family Trust, tax map 23229, 324 South Main Street, case 16 V24. Relative to setback 175-71B has been approved. 4 to 1 4 in favor, 1 opposed. And that's it.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
Let me put that back here. This is Campbell. Oh, I did. Okay, next on the agenda is, there we go. Davis SSMC GST Trust, tax map 15816, 57 Fullerton Shore, case 14 SE 24, public hearing for special exception, Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance, section 175-43, parentheses A, parentheses 1, parentheses small c, small j, for special exception under vertical expansion, extending the currently existing three-quarter second floor to a full second floor over the expanded footprint. This vertical expansion is permissible with special exception. And so there we go. And we have before us a presenter for this. Would you please state your name and then go through the criteria as to why you submitted this?
I certainly will. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And pull a microphone up close.
A little closer? All right. Attorney Philip Marbury here from Marbury Law. On behalf of the applicant, Nick Laganis, who's with Carroll County Construction, who is here on behalf of the owner, which is the Davis SSMC GST Trust, and Davis as the trustee. And you accurately described it. We are here requesting a special use exception for the expansion of a non-conforming structure. As is required under 175-43. It's actually two subsections of that are relevant. It's subsection C there, which allows for an expansion of a non-conforming structure up to a maximum of 25% of the existing blueprint, and that is measured from the drip edge to the new drip edge. And so we have provided all detailed drawings of the details of these expansions, of the dimensions, etc. And the total expansion of the non-conforming structure in this case comes to 24.73%. So just under that 25% maximum. And again, the first drawing that you have there in the very back of your packet, I believe it is, there should be a series of 3 drawings just after what looks like kind of a detailed tax map. And it has all of these numbers broken down for you, the existing square footage, the new square footage. It is a 4-foot expansion in 2 directions of the building, and both of those are away from the setback area, so that also complies with subsection C. None of the expansion is within any of the setback areas that would be problematic. And so it's 4 feet in 2 directions, and the accumulation of that represents that 24.73% expansion. We do also need a special exception for the vertical expansion. And, you know, I've been before you a few times discussing the idiosyncrasies of this particular RSA, because the reality is that any expansion of a multi-floor structure is going to necessitate a vertical expansion of some kind if you're going to mirror the footprint that you're expanding. And so I think this is partly why in subsection J it specifically says that a structure may be expanded vertically within any setback above existing non-conforming footprint beyond 25%, but must obtain a special exception. And so there's no requirement of a percentage that needs to be followed. The amount of expansion that can be done vertically, however, is circumscribed by some basic principles, right? You can't exceed the building code height, and you can't expand beyond that horizontal footprint, because if it were to overhang on the second floor, for example, that would actually create a new horizontal footprint, because that would be a new drip edge, right? That would be a new horizontal expansion. And so there are built-in limitations, but having addressed this before, I want to kind of head off the argument that this creates a new percentage that has to be evaluated. There's some limit to that. It's simply that a horizontal expansion requires a special exception. And so we are requesting that as well. We have, even though I don't think we need to, strictly speaking, for that vertical expansion, we have provided all of the detailed numbers of the second floor just for the board's information, and so it's all there on the record. But again, the total expansion horizontally is 24.73%, and then we are expanding from a 3/4 to a full second floor, but completely within that horizontal expansion. And so that's what the vertical expansion represents. It represents the 1/4 addition, plus they are going to build the second floor to the same horizontal extent of the new first floor. And so that's what we're here for. I have provided a fairly detailed breakdown of all of the different criteria, and I believe there are 8.
Could you just hold on a second? I'm not sure that I formally opened the public hearing. Okay. So I call the public hearing open.
Very good. Would you, as far as the detailed, explanation of all these criteria, I'm happy to read through them. I've provided them to you, and they're fairly expansive. I don't need to, and so if the board is comfortable having read them, then I'm very comfortable leaving it at that. But if you'd prefer that I go through each of them, I can.
Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions, just on the application.
I think,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
did you read through these?
I haven't yet, but that's what I'm asking. If you'd like me to read through them, I can.
For the listening audience
Very
and
good.
the secretary, if you could read what you submitted. Do you have a copy?
I have a copy.
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't have a copy of the drawings that you had on the back, and so
okay.
I did want to make sure that you had those prior to the
Okay,
meeting today.
so if you start off with site suitability?
Site suitability, for sure. The proposed project, a very small change in the existing footprint, and again, complying with the 25% maximum that is allowed under the ordinance. And it's going to be the exact same relevant use of relevant resources, access, environmental constraints, etc. will all be identical. The adequate usage space, again, it's a small expansion that conforms with what's allowed under the special exception ordinance, and there's no concern that this minor expansion will cause any issues related to the usable space of the lot itself. There's adequate access because, again, the usage isn't changing, the access isn't changing. There's no additional bedrooms, there's nothing that's going to change pertinent and relevant to access. And the same thing with environmental constraints. If anything, it's going to improve these because they're going to be, they're rebuilding a very outdated structure that has a lot of problems, massive mold infestation that's basically completely throughout the structure at this point, and then making it more energy efficient. So I cannot fathom any negative environmental constraints, and I think that it'll actually demonstrate some improvements on that regard. The immediate neighborhood impact, again, I think it's not going to have any negative impact on the neighborhood. It's a small expansion to an existing structure. It's not going to be, I think, even a noticeable one for someone who's just driving by and looking at it. I think it will have an improvement in the property value because it will be a more usable space for the use and function that it is, but it's not going to have a negative impact on the neighborhood in any way, shape, or form. No increased traffic flow, noise, vibration, dust, glare of heat, smoke, fumes, gas, or odors, and the typical hours of operation are going to remain identical. Undue nuisance or serious hazard to pedestrian or vehicle traffic. Again, I've addressed this already in some of the previous one, but there's no change to any of these factors and these things because the use is identical to what it was before. It's simply gaining a little more square footage as they have to redo and rebuild this structure. So they're maximizing their ability to use and enjoy the space for the same purpose they already are. There's not going to be any issues as far as parking areas because, again, no use, and all the expansion is coming away from the setback area, not further encroaching into it. Number 4, availability of public services and facilities. There's not going to be any change in signage. It's non-existing. There's no commercial vehicle increase or lighting changes that are going to be significant or detrimental. There's not going to be an increase to bedrooms, bathrooms, or allowed occupancy, and therefore no impact on the infrastructure. The proposed project will not have any additional impact or burden on any of the referenced services or facilities, and I've listed them all. Sewer, this is going to continue to use its current existing septic system, which is still fully compliant and will continue to be fully compliant after the change. It's served by a private well, which will continue after the change. The stormwater drainage, there shouldn't be any detriment in this in any way. The expansion is being done again just on the 2 sides away from the setback area, and we don't anticipate that there will be any detrimental effect on stormwater drainage. Fire protection, again, it's a marginal increase in square footage, and it's a de minimis impact on the adequacy of fire protection services. Streets, same thing, existing access, existing driveway, no change to any of that. Parks, again, this is a little bit of a stretch, but it's not going to increase the burden on local parks or other local amenities nor schools because, again, it's not changing the underlying use in any way. There won't be more bedrooms, no additional use that isn't already authorized and done. Number 5, the appropriateness of site plan. The parking scheme is unaffected by the proposed project, as is the traffic circulation. Again, I'm saying the same thing I've said a lot, but it doesn't represent a significant or appreciable impact on open space, and there are no fencing or screening issues at play. The expanded footprint will be replacing a small amount of decking on the western side of the structure, and will be replacing a small amount of rock landscaping on the southern side of the structure. This proposal has received shoreland impact approval from the state already. And so no concerns on that front. Number 6, the immediate neighborhood integrity. There will be no effect on the uses and established use patterns as a result of the small increase in the size of the currently existing structure. Overall, the neighborhood will be enhanced by a modernized and updated structure that's more environmentally friendly. Number 7, the impact on property values. a lot of overlap with number 6 there, but the proposed project will not have any detrimental impact on property values, but rather will have a beneficial impact, as it represents an update or bringing current older structures that, if left unremedied, would eventually cause a decline in property values. And I think that's something that we can all just intuitively understand. Number 8, the spirit of the ordinance and the intent of the master plan. The ordinance is specifically intended to create a process for owners in situations just like this one to effectuate minor expansions to their currently existing but non-conforming structures. The proposed project is specifically compliant with the relevant codes applicable to this scenario. Additionally, this expansion is a simple project designed to make a resident of our community's home more comfortable, functional, and enjoyable, fully compliant with the master plan's purpose of maintaining Wolfeboro as a regional center for recreation, culture, retirement living, and a desirable year-round community for families and households of all ages and income levels. And so that concludes the 8-point and 8 criteria evaluation. And so I would hand it over to the board for any questions that you'd have for me.
Yes. I have a question, Suzanne, okay? I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. When I was reading this last week, I saw that the structure had gone from 3 bedrooms to 6 bedrooms in previous construction and 2.5 baths, by looking at the tax cards, to 4.5 baths. Is that?
That's actually a different structure, not this structure that we're dealing with today. The reason this structure is non-conforming, just to make sure the board is aware, is just because there are multiple structures on this one lot, all that pre-existed, and so are grandfathered in, but that renders all of the structures non-conforming.
So some of these things that we have are not actually part of the request for a special exception?
Correct. Those changes that you referenced were for a separate structure on the property and are not relevant or part of this structure at all.
I see. Okay.
There has not been any previous special exception application or anything related to this building.
Well, I wondered when it said that some of the property, the changes were done in 2017, how there could be massive mold.
Yeah, that's a different building on the property.
Different building. How many
Yeah.
buildings are on this property?
A total of 4. I'm going to defer to the contractor on
Okay.
that one.
All right. It's a little bit confusing in the
Sure.
way this was all submitted. Thank you.
So are we talking about card 4 of 4?
If may I approach just to look at the card that you're looking at to make sure that we're... Yes, I do believe that.
Tax card 4.
Do you know, looking at the ordinance and the date it was enacted, whether you're representing the original footprint as the ordinance requires for mathematically figuring the percentage? Meaning, has there been construction here previously that we're not seeing that already expanded this building?
I don't believe that there's been any construction on this building since the ordinance was enacted. I believe that the contractor would agree with that. There have been projects on other buildings, but this building has remained untouched, and it is in its original state.
So one thing that disturbs me, a couple of things. One, you say that you're outside the 50-foot setback for high water. You say you weren't in any setbacks for this construction. We don't really, I mean, we have this, but it doesn't really show us that. But also, for the life of me, and I see a lot of plans, I cannot figure out at all what these mean. I don't have any idea where the footprint's expanding and in what way from these drawings. Is it expanding towards that other building?
It is expanding
in front?
it's expanding in 2 directions. 2 of the walls essentially are expanding out by 4 feet, and it's expanding to the west on the western half, and it's expanding to the south. Those are the 2 walls that are expanding.
So west, it's,
And again, would you like me to,
So this is
if I can approach, I can show you exactly where that expansion is
Okay.
happening.
Yeah.
we're talking here and here.
This wall expanding that way, this wall.
And so how close is
Yes.
it getting to that other building when that happens?
Can you show, yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank
Can you indicate on here where that is? Because that doesn't look anything like this.
That's right.
This includes, so it's going to be expanding this way. I just want to make sure I'm representing it correctly. Right, it's expanding.
Why don't you guys talk, and then you could come up here and tell us all. Did you guys find card 404?
A little
Wha-
confused.
While you are doing that, I need to appoint Chuck as an alternate
Okay.
voting member.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at 4 and 4, the two directions that it's expanding is, if you see on the, is at the bottom of there that it says deck? That is the
No, that's the
western.
right side.
Okay, the right side of it, where it has a long stretch of deck, that is the western side. It's expanding that way
So
and
this
then to
is
the south.
actually upside down compared to the site plan, if I'm correct. You're saying the deck is on the west side, which is over here. So it's not the way the lettering goes, it's exactly opposite, okay? Well, that helps.
If I had control over the tax map, then I could change that, but
So-
sadly I do not.
Do we see the deck in this picture?
I don't know. Is that a covered deck? Yeah. Yeah, so the side deck is just it's a deck, it's not covered, which is why we're having to seek an expansion for it, right? Because it would be measured from the previous drip edge, which the deck does not count as. And so we're going to be expanding essentially into that deck and creating overhang at that point, which is why it's a horizontal expansion.
Okay, and you're not adding a deck on,
No, there will not
After
be
that.
another deck added on the outside, to my knowledge. No.
so, and then you're saying you're adding 4 in back here?
Yep, 4 along the southern side of the structure as well.
Which is that
I
over
thought the
here?
application said 3 and 3.
So in one area, it said 3 and 3. We had a miscommunication with the previous, as we were running the numbers. All of the calculations are 4 feet and 4 feet, and that's where we use, that is the expansion we use to come up with the 24.73%. And so in one part of the application, under one of the criteria, I mistakenly wrote 3, but it is 4 feet in those two directions.
We have, in our package here, we have tax map data pages for 4 structures on that lot. Which one are we talking about?
We're talking about the map that's labeled 4 of 4 in the tax map.
4 of 4.
Would you like me, again, I can approach and show you the correct diagram.
So that's 1, 2, 3, so it must be this one.
This one right here, this is the deck that's on the western side. This is the southern side, so it's expanding in these two directions.
Thank you. So I have another question. Didn't we have a site visit here last fall? Or no?
You all did, but I did not go to the site visit. I don't know who did, because that was
I
a
think
day I
I
couldn't
missed
make
that.
it.
But yes, you did. There was a site visit it was in the winter, to my recollection, and then unfortunately the town neglected to notice properly, and so we kept getting pushed back, and then we couldn't do January, so we had to push it back one more month, and so here we are.
So going to the difficulty of this section, so the way you explained it, it sounds like you're saying if somebody didn't increase their footprint on the ground and they just went up a story, that wouldn't require any kind of special exception.
Oh, no, it still would.
Because it's
a
an increase of
vertical
living
expansion-
space.
It has nothing to do with living space. Because subsection J specifically says that any vertical expansion of a non-conforming structure is permitted, is not tethered to 25%, but requires special exception. So it does still require a special exception. It's just specifically not limited by the 25% expansion. And the reason that has to be true is because of the situation that's here. If you expand the horizontal footprint and then just simply go up from there, you are expanding the vertical space, right? Not necessarily. Now, I think we can all agree this provision could be written better, and as an attorney, It certainly could be written better, but I believe that that is a consistent and appropriate way to understand it, is that yes, a vertical expansion requires a special exception, but it is not tethered to the 25%. That is the limit of the horizontal expansion. And again, one of the other subsections, it's actually subsection D, is where it gives you the direct calculation of how that horizontal expansion is calculated, and it's drip edge to drip edge, previous structure to new structure. And so that 25% is limited there. And then subsection J is just making it very clear this vertical expansion is not limited or tethered to that 25%, but it still requires a special exception.
Okay.
So in other words,
I see what
if
you're
you-
saying.
If you didn't expand 4 feet in 2 directions, you wouldn't require any special exception, because
You would, but not
I think
limited.
you would if you were expanding vertically. If all this applicant were doing, let's say, was going from 3/4 to a full second floor, that is still a vertical expansion.
Yes, that would be.
And that would require a special exception. We wouldn't be talking about percentages, because it would just be, the board would just have to say, yes, we're granting a special exception for a vertical expansion of a non-conforming structure.
And that
Understood.
probably explains something that I get caught up on, is what if somebody expands vertically, but they don't add actually floor space, right?
I think you can argue under this, and I'm not going to speculate on other applicants or anything like that, but that requires a special exception, and it is permissible as such under
But
subsection
not
J.
restricted by
But it's not
percentage.
restricted. Correct.
Okay, I have a question. How come you applied for 175-43A1?
So A1 is
Wait a
the
minute,
whole.
wait a minute, wait,
Sorry,
I'm
go ahead.
finished.
I apologize.
C, which is easy to understand, non-conforming use, it talks about the 25% expansion. And J,
So that's because we.
any proposed construction activity located within a setback area with further encroachment shall require a variance.
So what you just read was subsection I. Subsection J is the next one. A structure may be expanded vertically within any setback above existing
Well,
non.
that's an I?
Correct, yes.
Oh, well, this looks like a J.
And J is what we've applied for. We've applied for subsection C and J, horizontal and vertical.
So do you know how
This is
far
a
this is
J.
going to bring it from the other adjoining house? And is there
Oh, I
not
was
a
reading the I.
dimension that
Okay.
is required
Okay,
between
sorry.
residences?
There's nothing in the code that I'm aware of that would restrict that or limit it. It's not bringing it substantially closer just by nature of the fact that it's subsuming the deck that's already there. And so I don't think it has a practical detrimental effect, and I don't know of any code section that would limit that expansion. Whatever it is would have to be compliant with the code, and I don't think there's anything.
I mean, I think it may not longer be in there, but I thought there was a 20-foot distance between buildings on a lot except for a private garage, but I could be wrong about that. Could be
Yeah,
some other town.
I don't know. Again, I'm not aware of any other violation this would, and when this was submitted, this was also what the code enforcement officer thought we needed a special exception for it. He didn't identify any other violations or
The
concerns.
question to Audrey is, do you have the information you need?
Right, exactly.
We can always continue it till you get your answers.
Is the house that it's so close to owned by the same family?
It is, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
They own all 4 of these houses? 5.
But they could be technically condoed just as houses and owned by other people, but they're not.
No, this is one owner, and just so it's clear for the record, what he said, it's 4 houses, 5-acre lot, one owner.
And are they owner occupied, or are they rented out?
I believe they're all owner occupied.
Okay. I had 2 questions, if I may. One, you said that the 4-foot expansion in one direction is already an existing deck there?
So it is an existing deck, but it still constitutes a horizontal expansion because the deck is not enclosed, there's no
Right.
overhang. And so for purposes of this ordinance, it very specifically in subsection D
Right.
says you can only measure the existing structure to the overhang, decks don't count.
No, I
And then the
understood,
same.
understood, but the deck is 4 feet or more than 4 feet? How big is the deck? The
Again,
existing
just so
deck
it's on here,
is-
the existing deck is 6 feet, so it'll be
All
less
right.
than the
And
existing
then in
deck.
the other direction, I think you said something about some rock.
I
rock
believe there's some
structure.
rock landscaping there that again will be
All right.
subsumed
What
by
I'm
the
trying to do is
four-foot
refresh my memory, because it was last fall, I believe, when we had a site visit, and I don't know who else was there, but I thought there was some sort of a parking issue if we did this. But, I may be, but I can't tell.
You have to, you need to talk into your microphone if you're going to talk.
I was just telling Chuck, I think he's thinking of a different place. I think he's thinking of the one
Yes.
close to the museum, close to Libby Museum. Wasn't it close to Libby, that far down? And then there was another house right here, Chuck, so that where it encroached was like right here and a big parking area.
Yep, no, I think you're right. I'm just trying to, remember which one. I tried to drive down there today to refresh my memory, but it's not plowed out, so
Yeah,
Just
again,
barely got out.
I would represent that we cannot think of any concerns with parking
Okay.
because there's no substantial change and there haven't been any concerns on any parking issues.
thank you.
Of course.
I'll go back to the question. Does the board feel they have the information they need to come to a decision?
I think, I really dislike the drawings, but I think there's, for me, there's enough there. And I think the calculations, although I didn't do them myself, are most likely correct. So I think I have enough.
You think you do?
Yeah. Just maybe barely.
Maybe barely.
Yeah, maybe barely.
All right. Any other questions at this time from the board?
I agree with Audrey. The drawings are horrible, but
Thank you.
there's,
Okay,
if
I'm
we
going
piece
to,
together all the information we have, I think we have just about enough to decide, at least in my opinion.
close the
So-
public.
oh.
Oh, no, is there any, go ahead, Jody.
Yeah, just one quick thing, I don't think it matters, but, so we're looking at 328.8 square foot. That's what we're adding?
Is that the first page that you're looking at there? That at the bottom it has the calculus total of 24.7?
Well, it says that's 24.73%.
Correct, that is the square footage
Okay,
expense.
and then I see it got denied for 250 square foot. Not that it matters, but 328.8 is the number.
I believe that is correct.
Okay.
Is there any comment from the public either for? Any public comment against? Any public comment, period? No? Then I'll close the public hearing. The board will deliberate. Okay, so we've got to go through each one. We'll start with site suitability. Do we feel there is adequate space, adequate access, and absence of environmental constraints? Those are the three questions under site suitability. So let's take them one at a time. Adequate usable space,
I believe so.
I see.
Yeah, the space is already being used for a deck and some rock garden feature, so I think it's still usable.
Adequate access,
Hasn't
From all we
changed.
can tell, yeah.
absence of environmental constraints.
I don't see any.
Okay. Number two, immediate neighborhood impact. Is there any negative immediate impact? Negative impact?
No, they own the neighborhood.
Yeah, they got their own little neighborhood, so.
Number three, undue nuisance or serious hazards to pedestrians or vehicle. I think that's,
No.
No.
I think that one flies. Number 4, availability of public services and facilities. Sewer, water. We okay with the storm drainage? Fire protection? Street, parks, streets, parks, and schools, E, F, and G are non-applicable. So it would be A, B, C, D. Sewer, water, storm drainage, fire protection. Any problems with any 4 of those?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Number 5, appropriateness of site, which includes the parking scheme, screening, landscaping. We okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. Immediate neighborhood integrity. Is there any effect on the immediate neighborhood integrity? Does it increase or decrease anything?
No, it's de minimis.
Okay. Impact on property values. And 8, spirit of the ordinance. Is it in keeping with the master plan? I actually didn't know it was in the master plan.
I think shorefront development's in the master plan.
Okay. So, I guess to get it going, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Wait, I gotta read through it
Okay.
for the.
Do you want me to
For
read
the
it?
secretary. For Davis, SSMC, GST Trust, Tax Map 158-16, 57 Fullerton Shore, Case 14, Special Exception 24, for Section 175-43A1C, I guess that's an I, not a J.
J, not I.
It's a J? Oh, it's hard to see that here in the type. Special exception for a vertical expansion, extending the current existing 3/4 second floor to a full second floor over the expanded footprint. This vertical expansion is permissible under special exception. And that would be in accordance with the paperwork and plans submitted, looks like October 25th, 2024. And conditions will be, all federal and state permits shall be received prior to construction, including but not limited to the town of Wolfeboro building permit. The approval is per all documentation submitted in the application package, which I just read the date, October 25th, 24. The application as submitted to the ZBA does not satisfy the submittal requirements for a building permit. The notice of decision shall be recorded at Carroll County Registry of Deeds. Applicant shall be responsible for payment. The, you know what? I don't know if it's, I think, yeah, special exception is valid if exercised within 2 years from the date of approval, as further extended by local ordinance of the Zoning Board of Adjustments in accordance with 674-33 Roman I, A, small a. I think there's another one, I forget what it is. The appeal. Anyone can appeal pursuant to 677-2. Any aggrieved party may appeal this decision to the county court within 30 days of the date of the board's voted approval of this application. I think that lists them all. So, we got a motion to approve with the conditions. A roll call vote. Audrey?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Kate? Ryan, yes.
Sumner, yes.
Okay, the motion is unanimous. You've got your special exception. put that away. I found my agenda here. Okay, so then we have two more. The next one is Jaya Realty Trust, tax map 218-103, 160 South Main Street, case 03, special exception 25, public hearing for a special exception under chapter 175-43, A1C of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance, non-conforming structure, and with the applicant, hello.
I'm already here.
Okay.
I'm listening to you.
Would you state your name for the record? And
Paul Askew.
do you have a copy of your,
You have not, first of all, you haven't opened the public hearing yet.
Right.
yeah,
And
all right, I'll open the public hearing, and I have Chuck be the voting member on this application.
I guess I have an administrative discussion first.
Okay,
So this has been turned in on a site plan that is not a site plan done by a licensed person for this project. This is a site plan and drawing from some historic time that's been sketched on top of. I question whether we can actually approve something on this kind of a site plan because somebody with their stamp on it, this is their piece of paper.
Talking about this?
No, talking about this.
This one here. Yeah, that's somebody, yeah, I see what you're saying on that.
So if we were to approve this, let's just say we were to approve this and then this went in as an approval for a commercial building, I don't think that's appropriate.
and why?
Because it's the person who put the stamp on this original drawing back in the day did everything but draw this little part on it. This is not part of the work that they did with their stamp, and here their drawing is being presented for this other project, and that's just improper.
So what you're saying is they took a previous existing plan and overlaid what they wanted to do on that plan.
Right.
It's
So-
not the original work.
So let me ask you, what if this was eliminated, if they had to put this in without the stamp and the,
I think that is, I actually don't know if that's legal. I mean, this is somebody's
I don't think you can
licensed,
use
Oh,
somebody
I-
else's.
somebody else's licensed work. You can't
License
just-
with a stamp on it, I don't think you can
take the,
use somebody else's legally stamped document, plagiarize it.
And they need to submit a document. What's,
Well, I think they need a formal site plan, and I don't know how else they would get one except for to either go back to this company, ask them to update the drawing they already have. That's normally how it's done because you pay less when you go back to somebody who already has it, or have it done fresh, which, is a lot of money.
what about the other drawing?
That does not appear to be stamped by, it's a, it's, okay, so it's done by a designer. That designer is not a stamped licensed person. They're a designer and that's fine because their name's on it and they've presented it.
Okay.
Well, what we could do is I can open the hearing and continue it, or you can just reject this application.
Well, can I make a point, and that is, we approved the last one without a site plan.
The last one,
Last
which one?
application.
The one that we just did?
Yes.
Well, that was residential, for one thing.
Yes.
That's much different than commercial.
So we require a site plan for commercial?
Yeah,
Okay, then yeah, I agree with you, that the sketch on the marked up drawing of the existing site, that drawing doesn't agree with the actual plans for the actual building.
That's true also.
It's cattywampus, I guess. They-
I mean, I have a number of other concerns with it, but that's my primary concern, because even if we loved everything else, I don't think we could approve it based on this plan. And they still have to go back to site plan, to the planning board. And I don't know that the planning board's going to accept this.
No, I imagine not.
So they haven't been to the planning board yet?
Have you been to the planning
We've
board?
been to the planning board.
What did they
sent us
say?
here.
Huh?
We've been to the planning board and they said, come here. The plans you have were the original we gave to them. They only requested a rough idea of what we were doing. How you've got their paperwork, I don't know. Because we didn't submit that to you.
You didn't submit
You didn't
this?
submit this?
What did you submit as a site plan?
What I submitted to you was a copy of what I got from the town, was that original, but without the sketch. Just to show you what the layout was of the property, show you what elevations and size of the buildings and everything. And then I had the other gentleman draw up what we were gonna put in, which is cold storage. And that was it, and it was a pretty big size one. I don't know why you got like little tiny.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Yeah, because I think originally he wanted 40 feet, but then to do 40 feet, we'd have to jump through hoops and bounds, so we cut it down so it'd be underneath the 25%. In which case, we were told we didn't have to do all the hoops and bounds.
So here's your application, and here's that same drawing.
Right, I don't know how that got in there. I didn't put that in there. When I went down to the lady that does it, I handed her those papers, whether or not she brought it over from,
So
The other board.
what did you bring in for a site plan?
I brought in the copy that the secretary gave us without that little pencil idea. So that showed you what somebody had surveyed, and it hasn't changed. But the idea of this was to show you where the buildings are, all the canopies, what the elevations are, that it's fairly level, the size, and where the property lines are.
And you didn't draw this?
I drew that for the first meeting, but then they had an issue that it came out too close to the cat. But I never handed it to your.
Well, so we would need a site plan from you.
But wouldn't that, without that drawing, be a site plan?
No, it's still somebody else's work.
Oh, okay, because I
Yeah.
was told that it was by
It is
the
a site plan,
secretary.
but it's not a site plan for your project.
That is the project.
No, it's not, because it's not a site plan done by the licensed person for your project,
Oh, okay.
right?
Well, that's what the other drawing was for.
What other drawing?
The other drawing that you have that shows
The
the
design,
building itself. Yeah, that one.
the design.
That's what we had drawn up.
Yeah, this is not a site plan, though. This
Okay.
are elevations and a floor plan.
Right, because that's what they were requesting, was all they wanted was the building, site plan, and how the drainage worked.
That's not a site plan, though. This is not a site
So
plan.
you submitted to them the original site plan,
Right, the original from
and
the,
then they,
and then they wanted to see a drawing of what the building was gonna look like, the extension,
Yeah.
and how the water was gonna come off the roof, where it was gonna go.
So
all
you're
that.
saying that they were happy with this? The planning board was going to take this?
They were happy with that. All they wanted to do was, they told us, was they wanted to see what the exact structure was gonna look like
I guess
and how it was gonna fit in.
I guess I would have to review their minutes, but
Okay.
whether or not they think this is acceptable, it's not acceptable to me for this purpose.
Because that is in town records, because that's where we got it from.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
but not with the addition.
No, not with the addition, that's why we had made the separate paperwork. Just to show what that is.
I see.
So, I mean, you also have, I mean, you're pretty close to the lot line.
Right.
And you're showing, you know, excavation work and potential drainage issues, which none of your paperwork really addresses.
The newer plan does, the plan that we had drawn up, shows where the runoff would go, the elevation. If you look at it,
This one shows, runoff? Yeah, that's
the roof is coming down, or what it's gonna be in its drainage.
crushed stone.
The whole way.
Okay, so that,
That's what we call the runoff. What's there now is asphalt. Oh, I know you couldn't see it. Whoever showed up just saw whatever was back there. But that whole back is all asphalt. And all we want to do is just put the shed pretty much over it and just roof it.
and you're going to put footings.
Right, with footings.
And what about the concern from your neighbor, from the neighbor, with regard to the historic wells that are there for
There-
groundwater testing?
There aren't anything where the building is going. There is I believe there's a test pit, but it's on what was the bank.
There's
It's
another-
down near their parking lot, on the far side where the telephone pole, or the electric pole is. So it's very, very far away. It's the other end of the property. I believe it's a pretty decent-sized cat,
Trying to find
but
it.
it's way over near the electric.
Is there a date on this underlying?
This one?
You mean the original site plan?
Yeah, I wonder
I
when,
see it January, but no year.
right.
I believe he had it built in, I was gonna say, probably the 90s.
Well, is this for the Three Sisters, or is this for the prior building?
That was for Three Sisters.
So that
might-
was Breed Properties, 240 Mechanic Street, Lebanon, New Hampshire?
That I couldn't tell you, I don't have it in front
No,
of me.
this was prepared for them.
I know, but
Yeah.
that's not
Oh, that's
the
what you meant.
people that I knew that own the store, so I was just
Oh.
wondering. I mean, I don't know, but, so do you want to hear the rest of the case, or, and then continue it for a proper site plan, or do you want to just continue it until,
I'd
Well,
rather
get-
see everything get out
yeah, I
tonight,
think
and then,
there needs to be,
so they have a better
Yeah.
plan to come back.
Yeah.
Personally, that's my feeling.
What I was doing is trying to find the application checklist. I believe there's something relevant to a proper plan. I can't find it being in a hurry. So,
so when I was there, the owner told me that the equipment that was on the back wall was shown on the plan, the new proposal plan, along with, you know, where the electrical entrance is, but none of that is on here.
No, because I was told didn't have to be because it didn't have anything to do with the structure.
Well,
I know we're moving it.
Right.
But moving it at any point in time does not require a permit.
I don't think so, no.
Yeah,
well, I'd like to see that it fits over where you're planning on moving it.
we have
But
probably 8 feet, 10 feet from the power, and I think we only have to be within 3 feet, 3 feet away
From what?
from the electric meter. We
Yeah.
have to be 3 feet away, but I believe we're probably about 8 feet. And we're gonna stack it instead of side by side.
I
So
see.
that'll take even less
Yep,
impact.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
And, so there was a dumpster on site,
right.
and that's not shown on this plan.
Audrey, wait a minute.
Oh,
Before
you want to go through the
Yeah.
steps?
Yeah,
Wow, I was
Okay.
gonna answer that,
before
but-
we go down that road, Is the board satisfied that they have all the information that they need to process this application? If not, we can open the public hearing and continue it. Or, of course, we could deny it without prejudice, but I don't think that's the mind of the board.
Well, I like Jody's idea, and that is, I don't think we have enough to make a decision because of the site plan, but I think we should bring up any other issues so that when they go to get this, they'll have those other
Okay,
things.
so, but I didn't get an answer to that. You're leaning towards continuing it, and you're trying to make a list of things that they need to come back with.
Yes.
Okay, so is somebody gonna keep that list as you go through them? Somebody gonna write it down?
Thank you. I thought I had 3 pens in there, but I've got none, so I can't offer to. It needs a site plan. Sorry, what? Yeah, I can't hear you because you're not in a mic. You have your own microphone, you know.
It's too far away. So number 1 is a new site plan that includes the cold storage unit. A
Yes.
drawing that includes
A
all
site-
of that, not
right.
just added on. So you
Yep.
understand that part, right?
Right. And there's other things that need to be on the site plan too, but it needs a site plan of its own.
Well, you'd have to put the building as proposed. You couldn't add it to say it's already there, though.
What did he say?
You're asking to have the site plan redone, so they would redo the existing site plan, but then when we want the building, we'd have to put proposed, not existing.
That's fine.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Plus the proposed, so that's all done at one time.
Right, well, I was
Not-
gonna say, you're
yeah.
writing down with the thing, I'm going, oh, but that's not existing already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audrey, did you need documentation about where he's moving, some of the things you were asking about?
That's what, I thought if we go through the criteria, those will come up in line with the questions, I hope. If not, I'll bring them
I
up.
haven't
separately.
written it down yet, so just let me know.
Yeah. So, what you doing, Suzanne?
Pardon?
What you doing, Suzanne?
I'm trying to find what the application requires so we
Oh.
can add it to the list.
Okay.
Audrey, were you concerned that not everything was shown on the site plan because you were asking about a dumpster too?
I think when we go through the numbered items, that'll come up because that's part
Okay.
of what we're looking at.
Okay.
I just want to keep them in order, and I'm waiting for Suzanne to
Okay.
be with us on that.
You mean it's going to come up because of the special exception?
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, should I read it to you now that I found it? It might have to be added to the list.
Okay, well then, why don't you just add
Yeah.
it to the list?
All right, it says, a scale drawing or plot plan on 11 by 17 of the property will be required, see attached, and then it goes down and it says, plan requirements. A plot plan or scale drawing will be required as part of your presentation to the Board of Adjustments, since a similar plan is usually necessary for the building department and/or the planning board site plan review. The plan can serve both purposes. A plot plan, a scale drawing, be up to date and dated, drawn to scale, with drawing numbers and north arrow, signature and name of plan preparer, the lot dimensions and bearings in any boundaries, streets on their right-of-ways, location and dimensions of existing or required services area, buffer zones, landscape area, recreation area, safety zones, site right-of-ways, streams, drainage, easements, and any other requirements, all existing buildings or other structures with their dimensions and encroachments, all proposed building structures or additions with dimensions and encroachments indicating proposed on the plan, zoning envelope made from setbacks required by zoning ordinance indicate zone classification, all setback dimensions indicate a zoning change, elevations, curb heights and contours, location and numbering of parking spaces and lanes, dimensions and directions of traffic lanes, any required loading and unloading, trash and snow storage. So that is handed out with the packet of with the app, when someone asks for an application.
So are we saying he did not get that, maybe? Or that's what we're asking him to?
He already had it, given to him.
So you have all of that information?
Well, but wait.
Well, I
what
had,
I'm-
yeah,
what I'm-
and I
what I'm-
handed it in.
What I'm trying to say is some of those that I just read and I went through may be not required. And since we don't have a planner to tell us what it isn't required, we maybe need to take a couple extra minutes tonight and say, just off the quick read, there's some of these that wouldn't apply. Or do you want it, what do you want to do?
No, I think that's a,
I think
I
take
think that
them
we
one
should do
by
that.
one slower.
can I ask one question? That didn't say that it has to have an engineer done and stamped, correct?
No,
So
it
you
did
could-
at the front one, at the top one, I thought.
I didn't hear that it was an engineer and
It
stamped.
has a signature and name of plan preparer.
Okay,
That's
so
what-
anybody who's
that's-
good with, they can do it all out and put all the measurements on it, and it doesn't say
Well,
that they have
who's
to.
gonna, Jody, you're giving the, who's gonna put the lot dimensions, bearings and all that stuff? It's
I would,
gonna take an
if I was gonna
engineer.
build something, I'd go for it, if it didn't say for an engineer, and I'd spend the
That's an
time.
No,
engineer.
I'm sorry, but.
No, but for a residential lot, you're right, but for a commercial lot, and that's going to the planning board,
Well,
I don't
I'm
think
just-
that
I'm
that's
reading-
somebody
I'm
who's
going
real-
by what she's,
This has, this.
I understand that.
The
No,
last
I'm
part
not-
I read
Yeah.
said that this has to go to the planning board anyway, so they might as well do it now and bite the bullet and get it over with.
okay, but I was just questioning whether it needed an engineer to do it and stamped, that's all.
Well, he
Yeah, I
will
think
to
that's a
go to the
reasonable
I
planning.
mean, I'm
question.
just,
He will to go to the planning board.
I think it's
Does it?
semantic.
I don't
I
know.
think it's semantics. If you want it to pass, get an engineer to do it.
If there's a lot of elements to it, and this one does happen to have a lot, if it's an extremely simple plan and you sketch it out and
Yeah,
the planning board's
I-
good with it,
well,
that's fine, but this
yeah.
is not a simple, this is, I mean, it looks simple because it's a little thing on the back, but there's a lot going on here.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that, I'm
yeah.
just saying,
But, no, so I agree, it's not saying that it has to be by a licensed person.
Yeah.
And there might be somebody who's good enough to do it without a license. Okay?
no, I'm just putting it out there in case, I have no idea.
No, it's reasonable because
I have no idea who
professional
they have.
services are expensive.
Yeah, I mean-
Engineers, yeah.
I mean, they're gonna wanna come out, they're gonna,
Well,
But they're
so-
likely to have to do,
is.
stormwater drainage stuff. They're going to want
Yeah.
a lot more stuff about the water coming off the back of the lot onto somebody else's lot. I mean, there's a lot of technical things going on here
that we should save for when we have the hearing. So
Yeah.
what you've already done is given a list of some of the items that you think are important and necessary. And I would say on page 10 of the special exception application, there is a list. We do not have to go through them one by one. He's going to be handed that list.
page,
When he picks up
10.
the application, he got that list.
But you're saying not all of them apply.
Well, he's going to have to figure it out.
Oh, we're not going to give him that guidance.
I think we
I gave
should.
him the guidance of the important things that Audrey just said, the things that aren't on this list. We do have a part-time planner, 8 hours a week. I would suggest he takes this list from the application on page 10 to her and say, what do you think I don't have to do?
So you're not talking about the 8-point special exception
No.
criteria? Okay.
It's part of the application. I
All
don't
right.
have one here.
But we can still go through these, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yes.
Great.
Okay.
So what I'm leaning towards and what I think I'm hearing is we continue this hearing that I don't think I opened.
You did.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. So that we continue it to a date, time, and place certain. Give him as much time as he needs. give them that list, give them this checklist, and
Give them whatever's going to come off reading through the,
what you said.
yeah.
Sabette made a list.
I
I need
haven't
to clarify
started
my
yet.
list before we wrap this up.
I
might
haven't
not have
started
captured
on that
everything.
list yet.
Are we going to look at the special exception 8 points now?
That's
tonight?
what, yeah, that's where the list is going to come from.
Okay, right, okay.
Well,
I was
let's go
just
through it.
talking before.
Oh, okay, all right.
Let's go through it.
So let me ask the applicant, what time frame would you like? Would you like to come back next month or 2 months from now?
Let me hear what the list is that we
We-
need to get.
Yeah.
Well,
That'll
you need a
make the
proper site
decision.
plan for one thing, and that's probably going to take you the longest.
I mean, we meet the first Monday of every month.
Okay,
So if you're in a rush, we could put you on for the next
we can.
month.
That would be fine. And if we have a problem, we can postpone it at that time,
Yep, okay.
True.
or stretch it to the next one. Yeah, I'd rather get on it now, and then if we have a problem, just
Okay.
push it off,
Give me
as
the
I would say.
calendar. Okay, so,
It's,
Audrey and Sabette are gonna work on that list to make it.
no, I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah, I thought we were
Yeah.
gonna go
Oh,
through
I'm
each.
not
Yes.
closing off anything. I'm
Okay.
just saying, while we look for a calendar date,
March 3rd.
Thank you.
okay.
That works out
Just
easy.
looking at
February
that
3rd, March 3rd.
All right.
Make sure I'm right
So,
here.
we need to do the list, and then I'll make a motion to continue to March 8th.
Okay.
All right. Number 1, site suitability. So it's hard to tell with this site plan.
Well, it's
I don't
only-
know if there's adequate usable space because we don't have the elements shown on the building that they're going to move. And what's shown here is not what they're proposing. Environmental constraints, floodplains, steep slopes. There is a slope down to the parking lot at the bank that they have to address when they're building these footings under this extension, and it can be done. Depending on what size you end up building, there's not a lot of space back there.
So can you give us the bullet on that without a long sentence? Kind of encapsulate it.
I'm not sure whether some things are going to come up. Yeah, I think generally those things are true, but those things are fine because they're covered in other sections of the 8 points that I'm thinking of.
Audrey, are you saying there's not a bullet point out of what you just said of what you would like him to turn into you? You're saying
Right.
he's already given us that information? And other,
Either that or we can't tell based on the drawing because of the lack of detail.
I gather there's 2 bullet points. One is a proper site plan, the other one is proper evaluation of environmental constraints like runoff.
And runoff. And I guess we could say we'd like to know about those testing wells that were the concern of the neighbor.
Yeah, the neighbor did have a concern about the proximity of those tests.
Like I said, it's
I
the
think he
other
was claiming 3, but I don't know. I
Right,
don't want to
it's
say for
on,
him.
it's on their property.
Oh, it's on their property?
It's on their property, and it's on
Okay.
the far side, the other far side, so it's
So I
plenty
don't think-
far away.
He
So
has
we
to
know
show
there
that.
are wells on their property. Are we
Right.
sure there are none on this property?
Yeah, we looked before we put in the original application, what was there, and the test wells are on, I keep saying the bank side, but Brewster's side, whatever. They've always been on the bank side, and I believe there's just the one on the far side towards the road.
Okay, I don't know.
I haven't seen anything else.
Sometimes they're underground.
All right, he doesn't have to explain it now.
No.
Right, that's all we could find.
Yeah,
Could I
Whether they're
ask Chuck?
buried or...
no, I didn't
Yeah.
know.
That's good, proper site plan like that.
I didn't go looking.
There seems like there should be a DES paperwork on those as to their locations.
Let's clarify that we aren't going to hit on every single iota of items that he has to bring in. We're trying to give some general guidance as to what this plan
Okay.
should look like.
So number 2,
It doesn't have to be all-inclusive. I guess what
Yeah.
I'm saying is he could get here again, and I would hope not. I would hope nothing big pops up, but we don't.
So,
Well, I just wanted to
Can't be
mention about
expected to
those.
get every little thing.
Well, 2 looks okay, because it's an existing business, and this is a storage in the back.
right.
Neighborhood impact, excessive trips, that's irrelevant, noise or vibration, dust, glare, or heat, smoke fumes, that's not a problem, I don't think. Are there utilities in the storage room?
No,
No.
no, it's just, to me, it's
Cold
a
storage.
glorified
Okay,
shed.
okay,
That's all it's gonna be
okay.
with an
So you're not
outside
gonna
door.
have noise or fumes or
Nope,
anything? Okay, okay.
Nothing from number 2.
So, number 3,
Nothing applicable, I don't believe.
well, the
don't
off-street
know
parking,
that.
it's got those 2 parking spaces, and that's where I see the
Can we do
dumpster.
this without discussing the application too much? Like either number 3, they need to give us something or not. We shouldn't have to define exactly what it is. It spells it out. I mean, he has to do number 3. Number 4, what services? I imagine number 4, all those services, he's got a,
Stormwater drainage, there it is.
yeah, that's a tough one.
There you go.
But I think he needs to address all of those.
Well,
Well, not
It's
sewer and
a-
water, because he's already
Yeah.
got sewer.
there are
and
no
water.
utilities in this building. The addition, the thing, the storage shed that he wants to put up is, there's no utilities, so there's no sewer,
Well,
no
I just
water.
said that.
Yeah,
He
all
got
right.
sewer and water, he
Okay.
doesn't need to do that. Stormwater drainage, C, he needs to tell us about that.
Yeah.
Fire protection, he needs to mention that. He needs to show us the street, whatever's going on with the street around there. He doesn't need F and G. And then we go to number 5. Have you got that with you? You got that?
We're
You
good
working
so
with
far.
it? Good, good. Number 5, appropriateness of site plan. Consideration shall be given to the following. Now, with what he's planning on putting on the back of that building, is it gonna affect the parking scheme? I don't think so.
No.
Traffic circulation, open space, yeah, I suppose he's gotta show what's left for non-buildable portion of that property. Fencing and screening, he may have to show that. Landscaping, he may have to show that. Signage, I don't think he'll have to show that. Commercial vehicles, it doesn't sound like he's gonna be driving commercial vehicles up in there. And lighting, there should be no exterior lighting on that.
Well, the storage shed is going to provide screening for things that are just hanging out behind the place now. I mean, it's the
Well, I don't know,
idea.
you're getting too technical.
I don't agree, because I think that's part of what's gonna come back is, what is this building for? Because on the site walk, there was some discussion about this that conflicts with what I see in the application.
All right, we're just giving him
So-
some guidance. We're not trying to make up his application.
No, but I think we
No.
should,
So for
I
instance,
think
number
it's
6.
appropriate to help
Yeah.
them through the process, and this is part of helping through the process.
Number
I don't-
6, to your point, it says it's for storage of a lot of the stuff we saw back there. Some of it's getting removed and going away, which it could do now without this. And it says it's going to be to clean up storage and debris, but while we were there, he spoke about keeping cases of product in the shed. So I think that's a difference in what I'm hearing, and I'd like to know which one it is.
Well, could it be both?
Possibly. If it's storage of inventory, is that an increase in the amount of square footage of the business that has to be addressed by the planning board? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, then let's just say he needs to address number 5, the things that he thinks are going to impact, and then the things that he doesn't think that are impacted. It's up to the applicant to bring some of this stuff in. We're doing the best we can to give him a little bit of a direction.
I'm not sure how it can be, necessarily for storage for stuff without a back door to get stuff in and out of. They're going to walk through the store
We're getting way too
with
technical.
stuff all the time. This is what I think this is saying.
We're getting way too technical, and I don't think we should address 6, 7, and 8.
So why wouldn't it make sense to let him know some of the thoughts that I'm having so that he can prepare it when he comes back?
Because he's going to go see the planner, and
She doesn't have my thoughts.
we're going to make it a point that she finds time to help him.
She doesn't have my thoughts.
We're going to have her help him fill out the application. What we're doing now is practically talking about reviewing the criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
are.
Exactly.
But you're giving reasons why he should or shouldn't have it. I just think we're getting just too technical. We got a
On the
list.
inside, we shouldn't be
Got a
talking
list,
about.
just go with the list.
Can I mention one thing?
Sure.
I think you read something on that application about dumpster or trash or something, and I just wanted to mention that dumpster location should be on the plan.
It seems pretty obvious, that's what I'm trying to say.
I know, but
It's
I'm just
clearly
saying.
not obvious to the applicant.
I just,
All
That's right.
So we've got a tentative list that should be understood. It was not our intention to itemize every single
That's
single
right.
little item.
No.
To just try and give some guidance going forward. Now, if we've left off something, we've done.
do you feel guided?
Now, question for you.
question.
You mentioned
All right, so
dumpster.
I'm gonna make a motion.
No, not yet.
No,
Don't
hang
make a
on.
motion
He's got a
yet.
I don't
question.
want to,
For purposes
let him
of,
speak.
Oh, you have a question.
Well, I had a question as far as the dumpster. Why is the location, because that could change.
I'm just saying, it was in, when she read the application, it said some, I swear it said something about dumpster, that's
I-
all. So
I
I'm just
can-
giving you the
no, I-
opportunity to
thought
look
somebody
into it.
The
brought it
reason,
up
the
and
reason
said-
is because
I just-
on site plans, you say
Yeah.
where you're gonna put your dumpster, there might
Okay.
be screening
I'm just throwing it
required.
out there.
It might interfere with parking. I mean, there needs to be a place that you're identifying for a dumpster.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so-
It's on the
That's
list.
why I was curious. I'm like, 'cause
No,
that-
I'm just
All right.
throwing it out because I heard
No,
that.
I know. I'm just,
All right,
Me, we're
Sabette
good.
Sabette would like to confirm the list that she's got.
yeah, just for purposes of clarity, it'll help you go back and watch the video, and you'll hear all of this. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong about anything. A new site plan that includes the proposed storage unit. Proper site plan with environmental constraints, like that shows the environmental constraints like water runoff, et cetera. Storm water drainage, fire protection needs to be cited. Streets, I just heard streets, where streets are. Show where the fencing and the screening are, as well as the landscaping. Exterior lighting was a point, and dumpster location. Did I miss something? And then plus, there's a lot of other things on the list, but those were some of the highlights.
quick question,
And
lighting.
and the things that are on, what was it, page 9 that I read from the application?
And page 9.
What's
Page
See,
the,
the
9
thing
and
is,
10.
we
what do
often,
you,
Wait a minute, wait
we
a minute.
often have special exceptions that don't go to the planning board, and so we're kind of double looking at this, and that's fine.
Okay. Sorry, you had a question?
she said lighting. What do you want as far as lighting?
Well, I think sometimes exterior lighting issues come up.
Exterior lighting, if you're gonna have any downlight or spotlight, the town's very careful about exterior lighting.
Just for the extension, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Well, no, I
That's
didn't
all
have,
this-
I
that's
don't
all-
have to go around
No,
and
no, no, no,
count
no.
all the
That's-
existing.
No, that's,
I was like,
the only reason you're here
Yeah.
is for that extension.
okay,
Nothing to do with the existing building.
okay. Well,
Now,
Okay.
what's the access
So
to
I'm
the
gonna-
storage?
there's the back door of the building.
Back door of the
There's
building?
an existing back door of the building. We're gonna enclose that, make that the entrance. He'll be able to leave it open let some heat flow in there, here and there.
Okay,
And then it does have,
A side door.
it does have the side door.
okay. So there are
So it
two,
has two ways out, and that's all the fire department told us
Okay.
they were concerned
Good.
with.
Okay, you
Okay.
show
It's-
us all that when you bring in your next
Okay.
plan. So I'm going to make a motion to continue the application for Jaya Realty Trust for a special exception to March 8th.
Third.
What?
third, it's the third.
Oh, why did, oh, that corrected that to the 3rd? All right, I don't know why I had the 8th. March 3rd, 2025, 6 o'clock, Wolfeboro Town Hall, Great Hall.
Okay.
Did I leave anything out?
One other question
Time,
I
please.
had. No, you said time. Can I ask one other question?
Of course.
I had the plans drawn up by a company in Wakefield. Can I have them, because it didn't say it had to be a certified plan, can I have him
When
reduplicate, so
you
to
meet
speak?
with the town planner, ask her that specific question.
Okay.
Yes. Ask the
Well,
town
it
planner.
came up here, but I,
Well, yeah,
Bring it up.
She's the final word.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, okay.
next to the final word.
Ask her what the planning board's going to need, so that you make sure you get the
okay,
answer for both.
right. Because when I showed her those original plans that the town lady gave me, she told me those were fine. But that's why I'm asking.
I know.
Yeah.
I get two different stories, so it's like.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
it happens a lot,
All
so
right,
it
can we hold off on the discussion? I need a second to the motion.
Second?
Vote. All
Yes.
those in favor?
Yes, Audrey, yes.
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we have formally continued this hearing until March
March 3rd.
3rd. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Shoot. We didn't ask for a percentage.
That's all right. He's gonna work at it.
Okay.
Percentage?
It can only go up to 25% expansion.
I verified that. It's
Oh, you
20,
did?
it is, yeah.
Good
it's-
for you.
It is in there.
yeah.
Good. Oh,
Once
good.
again, it's like 24%.
Too bad, then he wouldn't have to be here, right? Thunder? Thought he-
It's, you can go up to
Up to, right, yeah, okay. All right, next on the agenda.
Last but not least. So,
Okay, we have,
This is the boo-boo.
Was that fun?
okay. This is a little different, we seldom get these. It is for an application for an equitable waiver for Triple M renovations, tax map 267-2012, Winnipesaukee Drive, case 04EW-25, public hearing for appeal of equitable waiver under Chapter 175-88.3A, parentheses 2, of the Wolfeboro Planning and Zoning Ordinance for a foundation in the side setback. So what we have is this. And there's a process for which I don't know if that, I'm looking to see if there's a checklist.
Well, there's his answers to the question, which would be as close to a checklist as I've seen.
So hold on.
He's got the appropriate site plan and
Wait a
engineered
minute, Audrey.
survey drawing.
Here's the checklist.
Suzanne, who do you want to sit on this case? Me or Chuck?
Who wants to?
Chuck, did you go to the site plan? Did, yeah. Let Chuck, I didn't see it.
Okay. Thank you. Appoint Chuck to be a voting member in this application. So here's the checklist, and you picked up one of these, I'm sure.
Yes, we did.
Okay. And so what you filled out was just answering the questions?
Yes.
Okay. So,
are you Peter?
I am Peter
Okay.
Names, yep.
Okay,
Triple
thank
M
you.
Renovations.
all right, so before I open the hearing, I want to discuss the checklist with everyone.
So is that a checklist for equitable waiver? Okay. What's it say?
Okay. So, a plan, again, it's the same, it's just about the same of what I read before, but, an up-to-date and dated plan on 11 by 17, signature and name of plan preparer, the lot dimensions and bearings in any bound streets and their rights-of-ways, widths or half sections, location and dimensions of existing or required service areas, buffer zones, landscape areas, and so forth. All existing buildings or other structures with their dimensions and encroachments. All proposed buildings, structures, or additions with dimensions and encroachments, including proposed on the plan, zoning envelope made from setback required by zoning ordinance, indicate zone clarification, all setback dimensions, indicate any zoning change lines, elevations, curb heights and contours, location and numbering of parking spaces, that wouldn't be applied. Dimension and directions of traffic lanes, not apply. Any required loading and unloading, not apply. So, is the application giving you enough information to make your decision?
Yes.
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 Okay, so I can put this checklist away.
He filled out, right? Okay.
So then now I will open the public hearing for the special exception, and I would ask the applicant to state his name and his reason why he's here, and read from your application your stated comments as to why you think you...
Sure. Yep, I'm Peter Mames with Triple M Renovation.
Pull the microphone.
Yep, that better? Peter Mames with Triple M Renovations on behalf of the Olivers at 121 Pasaki Drive. We got put on this project after the driveway was put in, so we kind of went with where the driveway was put in, and then looking at the house and all the setbacks and stuff like that, they wanted to move the the house a little farther back into like the flat of the yard, which we felt would be fine, meeting the setbacks on either side and then the front. So we did that, and it would be a little less fill that we had to bring in, a little more friendly for them for their costs. So we did that, measuring off what we had for a septic plan from our designer and then the neighbors. We looked at both, determining from the post up by the road, talking to the homeowner, we found the ribbon, we found a pin on the tree, said, do you think this is the correct one? He said, yes. So we strung a line down, looking at both plans, and we thought was the correct spot. So we measured the 25 feet off that to our foundation. Multiple times, we dug it. Before we put the footings in, we measured it again. We thought we were all set, so we did that, poured the foundation, kept on going with the project. The only thing we did move is, like I said, we moved the house back a little bit, so we had to get a different septic plan as an as-built, because the only thing we moved was just the leach field tank. So then we did that. So then we started building, and then they came out and did a as-built and then notified us that we were in the setback. So then we had Norway Plains come out and do a foundation certification and did a full survey on the property. And then we found out that the house, when we pushed it back, did in fact go a little bit to the right of the property, putting us into the setback.
Anyone have any questions?
This was before the house itself was built on top of the foundation?
No, the house was already
Okay.
built.
That's-
Yeah.
And what did we learn from this experience?
To get a surveyed come out first.
Foundation certification.
Yes.
When you put your footing forms in.
Yes. Like I said, we've done probably 8 new construction in town and have, knock on wood, have never run into this issue, but going forward, we will be doing that.
Okay, we still have to go through these,
Which?
1 through, to read these into the record.
Read which ones into the record?
explain the violation and then,
Facts supporting this request.
Oh, I thought that's exactly
no,
what he
he was
just
making
did. Okay.
a narrative, but he should read from his application what supports his request.
But,
Starts
I'm
with
sorry,
the-
but isn't that going to be in the record? I mean, do we have to read through his application verbally?
It's right here, just
I
go-
know it's right there.
Yeah, there's only like 4 or 5 of them.
1,
I
2,
need them read into the record for the public and for the minute taker. So have you got one in front of you?
I do not know.
Here. Ooh,
Read those 2 pages into the record.
just read them. What?
I'll read them.
What?
Yeah, let's.
You want me to read
You'd
them?
rather not? Oh, okay. Audrey, will you read them? Sure, that's okay.
Sure. Number 1, explain how the violation was not noticed or discovered by any owner, former owner, owner's agent or representative, or municipal official until after a structure in violation had been substantially completed or until after a lot or other division of land in violation had been subdivided by conveyance to a bona fide purchaser for value. The answer to that is, I used the septic plan for this lot along with the septic plan from a budding lot to locate foundation. After foundation was in, Berry Surveying came back to do the as-built for the septic and then found out we were too close to the side setback. Number 2, that the violation was not an outcome of ignorance of the law or ordinance, failure to inquire, obfuscate, cannot say that word, obfuscation, misrepresentation, or bad faith on the part of any owner, owner's agent, or representative, nor was instead caused by either good faith error in measurement or calculation made by an owner or owner's agent, or by an error in ordinance interpretation or applicability made by a municipal official in the process of issuing a permit over which that official had authority. The answer is, I had every intent to meet the 25-foot setback with both septic plans for the lot and a budding lot. It seemed obvious where the property line was. I measured the 25 feet from that point. I was informed after the fact that the septic plan points are approximate, which I did not know. Number 3, explain that the physical or dimensional violation does not constitute a public or private nuisance, nor diminish the value of other property in the area, nor interfere with or adversely affect any present or permissible future uses of any property. The answer is, the side setback is 23 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Most of the zoning in town only requires a 20-foot setback. With 23 feet, we are still over the average. Question number 4. Explain how that due to the degree of past construction or investment made in ignorance of the facts constituting the violation, the cost of correction so far outweighs any public benefit to be gained that it would be inequitable to require the violation to be corrected. The answer is, this mistake wasn't discovered until after the foundation had been poured and backfilled. The cost to demolish and start over far outweighs any public benefit. It's 2 feet on the side setback that still has 23 feet in a town that on most lots only requires 20.
Okay. Thank you. Did I open the public hearing?
I don't remember.
Okay, so the public hearing is open. Thank you, Audrey, for reading that into the record. Is there anyone here in the public that would wish to speak for or against? Or there's nobody, let the record show there is nobody here in the hall except us. So I will, does any board members have any questions? If not, I would close the public hearing for deliberations. Okay? So what we have to find, amongst other things, is that the violation was not an outcome of ignorance of the law or bad faith. It was an error in measurements. The error does not constitute a public or private nuisance, nor diminish the value. kind of just pick out some of the obvious ones. The violation was not noticed or discovered until and after the structure was substantially completed. I believe
Correct.
that was correct. So I just highlighted on some of those that I think are reasons why we should approve this equitable waiver.
Another point that really wasn't specifically addressed is the cost of correction so far outweighs any public benefit gained that it would be inequitable to require the violation to be corrected. So there's a house built there, so to tear it down or modify it somehow to meet the setback would be unreasonable and inequitable.
I think it's important in this case in particular that none of the abutters or the abutter that's impacted or none of the other abutters have responded in any way to this mailing. So that tells me that they are not concerned about the slight infringement on the side setback.
Okay, did I close the public hearing?
Yes, you did.
Thank you. You did. I would move to approve the equitable waiver. I think I did. I was looking for a second.
Second.
For the reasons that I listed previously, a few examples. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I have to put those conditions on it, but I will say, to be safe, we'll put the boilerplate conditions on this approval. I don't know if it has to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds, but you'll be guided on that.
Okay.
But I do want to say that there's an appeal process, and if anyone's aggrieved, they may appeal within 30 days. So then I will call a roll call vote for the approval of this application. Audrey?
Yes.
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 Brian, yes.
Sumner, yes.
Yes, you've got your equitable waiver.
Thank you, guys.
And don't let it happen again.
I won't, don't worry.
Okay. All right,
Whoa.
and all of these have to
cases.
have, board members, all of these have to have findings of fact. And,
Oh, gotcha.
findings of fact and reasons, and so, the deliberatives tomorrow, I know I won't be working on it, and it has to be in 5 business days, no planner, and I doubt that.
So the findings in fact are, this last one probably is most important, but for a denial, they have to be really rigid, but for approvals, they're fairly
They're easier.
easy. And we have one continuance, which we don't have findings of fact for. So we
Well,
have 4.
I'm gonna be checking with Shauna, because she's gonna have to take some of this workload on for us.
Okay, I'm not sure that we don't do the finding of facts, though. What do you think she
I do
suggests?
them, and then I give them to her to
Okay.
make them look fancy,
Gotcha.
to make them look professional. Okay, just so everybody knows, the rules of procedure, we still gotta find somebody to type them up in a formal fashion. I gave it to Shauna because I know, I was told she has it electronically. I don't know when she'll ever be able to get to it, so I'll just keep putting it on the agenda, and someday I'll surprise you.
Can you send them to me? Can you send them to me and I'll do them?
Somebody in the town needs to do them.
You know, I think so
Oh,
too,
that's
but
kind of
we don't
ridiculous.
have staff, so what are we supposed to do?
I mean, the problem is I've typed them up throughout. However, I am not an expert with word processing. And I had some indentation issues that I didn't know how to fix and formatting.
That's true.
So I don't know how, I don't know how to fix
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to do
You're
that.
right, you shouldn't have to do it. People are paid
Yeah,
to
somebody,
do the job, so
somebody that's an
we'll-
admin should do
I'll
this.
I'll ask for somebody else to be assigned to do that.
It's a 15-minute job for someone that knows word processing. It's on Word, and it's just, it's not much, it's all
Okay,
there.
okay, and I'm sure after the deliberative, somebody will be able to do that, so I'll just keep following up on it. Okay, a motion to adjourn,
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
I want to ask you guys one thing.
Bring these back next time.
Are we off the TV?
Probably not.
I want to, can I mention one thing?
This is still on,
We're done.
it's off now.
I want to mention one thing, and that is the sensitivity to reading levels.
To the what?
To reading levels. We might have just bumped up against that just